Hi, Danville. Alan Shields here, Chief of Police for the town, and we are 10-8 and in service, which means we're here to make people's lives better, and we do that by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of everyone we serve. Thanks for joining us. This is a live show. If you have questions during the show, go ahead and pop them in. We did have a question that came in during Facebook about windshield wipers and stuff, so we're going to do a little quick segment on wet weather driving later. We'll cover the blotter, and we're going to talk about the crime that we're seeing here in town. Also, we're going to cover some of our typical, hey, make sure we get these things downloaded and printed and all that. And if we can start off with that, we'll move over to our FEMA All Hazards Guide. This is a checklist. It's got information on how you can be prepared should a disaster happen. Right now, if we're looking at like landslides and floods, maybe that's the one we want to look at if we're getting rain. But we do have power outages and things like that in there, and it's a great way for you all to stay connected and stay prepared. And then you can also jump onto our Contra Costa Sheriff's website and stay connected by opting in for the community warning system. This will give you alerts for all major disasters. And then you can download the Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation Guide, which will help you stay prepared and manage should there be an incident. We did have a pretty cool event last Friday. We're going to do it again this Friday at Costa, and that's our Fill the Cruiser event. Fill the Cruiser is it's actually the Marine Corps Toys for Tots. So it's their event. They're doing all of the crazy heavy lifting on this, getting the toys out to the kids. We're simply just trying to help our Marine Corps partners out and invite people out to come and drop off some presents. You can see those are some photos from last year. Last weekend was crazy successful. Very, very good. And we're hoping to duplicate that or do better. And we also, if you can't make either of these two events, we have a drop-off in the lobby at the police department. We just had some kiddos drop off some stuff today. Very cute. Look at our Facebook page. Tomorrow we're going to be making a post about that. But next Friday, or this Friday, between 10 and 2, we will be out there. And I think I've got a video queued up to show you. So this is pretty cool. So this is what it looked like last weekend at our Fill the Cruiser event. Well, I had to put my little earphone in so I could hear, but I don't know about you, but that Marine Corps uniform just always looks very sharp. And we're appreciative that they sent some folks down, but mostly we're appreciative to all of you because you all came out and just stuffed the cruiser. I mean, the cruiser was surely full, but we had a whole like 15 passenger van that was just completely laid up for cargo. And that thing was packed. So absolutely awesome. And then we even had to store some additional items here at the PD. So very, very good job. Appreciate to all you come out and join us for that event this Friday. We'll be right in front of Costco. So that is the, as Lou says in the notes, buy local. That's our local, one of our local shops. But you're more than welcome to shop at any other local store and bring some stuff down. CommunityCrimeApp.com. That's where you can get all information about crime in the town. You can also get sexual register information, and you can set up to get alerts right to your email. Switching it up a little bit. Usually we do crime first. We're going to start doing traffic first. So traffic, we had 4 property collisions. And I know I've got someone, I don't know if he's live, but one of our friends out east usually is very keen on the Camino Tasajara collisions. So there was a non-injury collision on the 29th on Camino Tasajara at Buckingham Drive. Another one on December 1st, a non-injury collision on Camino Tasajara and Crow Canyon Drive. And then on December 2nd, a non-injury collision on Danville Boulevard and Delamigo Road. And then December 2nd, a non-injury collision on Mission Place. I've said this in the past, but on these collisions, the process that we use to investigate is an officer goes out, they review relevant data. So, the collision marks on the car, maybe if there's skid marks on the street, not seeing those too much with ABS, where debris fields are, witness statements, any video. They will make a determination as to the cause of the collision. They will recommend that determination to the supervisor. The supervisor will review and approve that. and then the cause is made final. So typically within a week, we don't have that process complete. But I can tell you, at least on the 2 Camino Tasajara ones, because I know those are a sensitive subject, especially when it comes to speeding. I asked the officers that were involved in those collision investigations, and both of them told me that speed was not a factor in those cases. Not that the cause is fully approved yet, but it was for sure that speed was not a factor in those. All right, moving on to crime. So the 28th through December 4th, we had 3 burglaries, 5 thefts, and 1 vehicle theft. And I'm having to use 2 pages. I think this is the first time I've had to use 2 pages in several months. First, on the 28th, we had 3 crimes. We had a theft of a catalytic converter from a truck on Highland Drive. Another one was a theft of merchandise from Marshall's, and that's 1 of 2 for the week. And then on the 28th, we had a theft of alcohol from the Smart and Final on Diablo Road. Then moving to the 30th, we had a residential burglary on Alamo Springs Road. On the 30th, we also had a stolen vehicle from Oak Court. And I'm going to talk, that's what kind of brought up our final talk here, or final thought as far as stealing cars. On the 1st, and then we just went consecutive days here for stealing. So on the 1st, we had a theft of commercial equipment from a restaurant in the Town and Country Shopping Center. And when I say commercial, I mean it was the equipment they use to run their business. And then on the 2nd, we had a theft of merchandise from Marshall's. That was the 2nd one for the week on Fostoria Way. On the 3rd, we had a prescription medication stolen. And we're not really sure. We know it did not make it to its intended location, but it was it was shipped. So it may have been a package theft, or it may have been stolen somewhere in transit. But it was to be delivered on Blackstone Hollow Court. And then on the 4th, we had another package theft that was reported. I believe it was reported the day before that, over on Paraiso Drive. So a lot in the way of theft there. You can see some of it was retail-related theft, so stealing from stores, whether it's merchandise from Marshall's, alcohol, those sort of things. But then we also had a couple of what appears to be package thefts. And then we're still getting those catalytic converter thefts. So those are still something we're seeing a fair amount of. All right. So we had a tip or a question last week, and it was, is it the law that if it is raining, you have to have your headlights on? And that is a law. It was passed almost a decade ago now, that if you're driving, and the good way to tell it, and it's if you're in inclement weather and you're having trouble seeing other drivers, that's the rule. But what we give as far as advice is, if you think that, or you have to turn on your windshield wipers, then your headlights should be on. And for the most part, newer cars have daytime running lights, or they have that feature, so it's automatically enabled. I know my car, it seems like it just kind of does everything on its own, and the lights are already on. But sometimes you can actually turn that off. I know I checked my work car, which is a Toyota Camry. You can actually take that switch and you can make it so that it selects to daytime running lights off, which is no lights at all. And so if you're running it in that condition, then you're not going to have them automatically on. So just be advised, if you're riding in that weather and it's wet, turn the headlights on. And it does make a huge, huge difference on being able to see other cars on the road. Think about it next time it's raining out, and look for the car that doesn't have their headlights on, and see if you can see how hard it is to actually see them, and how bright the lights are, and how good you can see those. But let's cover some other tips. If we're talking about windshield wipers on and headlights, let's look at what else we can do. Monitor the use of cruise control. What this means is, a lot of times cruise controls, although they're getting smarter and we're seeing some self-driving type cars and those sort of things out there, a basic cruise control does not adjust your speed. It simply keeps your car going at the same speed. So if you get bad weather, snow, ice on the ground, the wheels are going to keep turning. It's not going to let off the gas for you. So if you're choosing to use cruise control, really pay attention to what you're doing and consider not using it and just manually taking control of the vehicle yourself. Slow down, increase the space around you. That one seems pretty logical, but I'll tell you, I was on the way to work last weekend when it was raining, and there was a lot of people, riding really close and just generally in a hurry. What do you do when you get a skid? And the advice is, look where you're going to go, Sorry, let me put it back up. Look where you want to go and don't slam on the brakes. And the point is, if you start to look away from the skid, a survival reaction is we're going to steer into where our vision is going. So the best thing you can do is if you start to slide is look where you want to drive and steer in that direction. The one thing you don't want to do, don't slam on the brakes. The second you slam on the brakes, the car will really start to lose traction greater than it already is. So really keep that in mind. And then if it's severe weather, or even if it's light weather and you just don't feel comfortable driving in that weather, consider staying home, staying off the road, or finding someone else that may give you a ride. And that way you can avoid that altogether, and because it can be pretty hazardous. All right, I'm going to check the chat and see if there are any questions here. Jumping on late, what was happening Saturday at the expressway? So Laurel's asking that. So Saturday, let me look. I'm going to have to look this one up for you, Laurel. So are you talking about Saturday night? And maybe give me and when you say expressway, are you talking about 680, or give me a little more detail, and I've got my list right here. I'll be able to look it up for you. Gary gives the good advice of set the headlights on automatic. That really is the easy way to do it. It seems like these cars are getting a lot smarter nowadays. Oh, and then Debbie, this is actually good advice. So Debbie says, yes. Also, if you have your car serviced, make sure you turn it back on. They may turn them off. And that actually makes sense. You wouldn't want headlights beaming through a shop and blinding people while you're working on cars. So I could see that would be something they would do. So Sue says, I have seen so many deer on entrances and exits of the freeway at Sycamore and Diablo. Yeah, it's interesting. I think they're actually bedding down there in the median sometimes because there's a lot of trees and things that can give them cover, and they can get probably a pretty good night's sleep or good day sleep because they go around at night. Good day sleep there because there's less animals hunting them there. Turning on the headlights also turns on the taillights. Bert, that's good advice. Daytime running lights, don't do it for the taillights. And if you want to avoid being rear-ended, that's good advice. All right, here was something that caught us a little bit by surprise. A lot of times, and you've heard us give the advice, if you want to keep your car, don't have the keys anywhere. This is how people steal the car most of the time is the key is actually in it, near it, somewhere, right? And so we always say, if you have control of your keys, it's very unlikely that you're going to be a victim of theft. Well, what we're seeing though is that there are some cars that are easier to steal than others, and there are cars that have keys. They're usually older, but they have keys and they don't have transponders in them. And like a key fob key like this is going to have a transponder. It's an RFID chip that's in the key that actually communicates with the car and says there is an actual verified key in the car connected to this car. The car can start and go. Without one of those transponders, and this is where we want to be careful. I don't want to educate the criminal on how to do this, but there are ways of getting that car started without the key, and it doesn't take much time at all. And so what we're saying is the advice that we're trying to give is identify whether or not any or all of your cars have transponder keys. If they do, then you may not have to take the secondary step. But if it doesn't, we're strongly encouraging that you take additional measures to protect your car from being stolen. So let's take a look at what a transponder key looks like. If you look on the left, that's the old key. And I know a lot of us that drove cars in the decades before the 2000s and 2001s, 10 or 2010s. That left key is familiar to us. It's just a regular key. There is no space for a transponder in there. But if you look at the right one, that has a plastic guard on it. And it's not the plastic guard that signifies whether or not it's a transponder key. It's whether or not it has a transponder embedded in that key. So here's the thing. A lot of cars, lots of different years, different makes and models will have transponder keys and some won't. And so what we're recommending is just go online and look up whether or not your car has a transponder key. I have not yet found one with a key fob like this that acts as your key where you do the push button, that this is your key. So it doesn't It doesn't have a turn style ignition. And so those are safe. But if you use an actual key, so in other words, if you have to take something and put it in there to get your car to start, we're recommending that you take additional measures to protect your car from being stolen. And we've got a couple of suggestions. By no means are these things that we by brand recommend, but just by type. And that is a wheel immobilizer. And there's actually two up there. And I hadn't seen the one on the right before, and it looked pretty easy, but the one on the upper left, you know, you've heard them called the club before, but what it's called is a wheel or steering wheel immobilizer. It's a very visual deterrent. It lets people know that there's additional safety measures. And the hope is that they'll look at that on your car and say, you know what, I would rather just go to another car and give put my luck somewhere else. The one on the right actually is a cable lock, and it loops around your steering wheel and actually locks into your seatbelt. The one on the lower left, that's just your traditional car alarm and can help alert if your car is broken into or attempted to be stolen, all of that stuff. So what we're saying is, think of a secondary measure to protect your car if you don't have one of those transponder keys, and that can help you to avoid from being a victim of theft. All right, I'm going to check the chat and see if there's anything in it. I think we're doing record time here. We're at 21 minutes. Oh, there's a few in the early. Okay. Well, first off, hi to everyone that said hi, and I appreciate you putting comments in the chat and hitting the like button and all that, because that actually keeps this show going. And let's see, gas station. Okay, gas station, lots of cars around 1 on San Ramon Valley Boulevard and Sycamore. Okay, Laurel, I'll be honest, I'm thinking it's one of 2 calls, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look it up, and then I'll answer it in the chat. And that way I make sure I get the right information on the right call. I want to make sure I get it right. Let me see. Sue, best to keep your fob in your pocket. So if you're a female and your purse gets stolen, you still have your fob. You know, Sue, I never thought of that, because I don't carry a purse. Sometimes I carry a backpack, but I usually put everything in my pockets. So Sue, that's actually really good advice. If you're used to putting your keys in your purse, maybe it's best to take the little key fob. And actually, Sue, now that you mention it, I actually do that when I go running. I try to lighten my load a little bit. And so I'll just take the key fob, and I'll make sure I just take the key fob and maybe not the additional keys. Like if I had 20 other keys, I'll put those in a locked compartment in the car, but I'll take just the key fob and I'll take that on my run. That way I know that I can get into the car. So Sue, great advice. All right. With that, it looks like that is all the questions, and that's all the content we have. I hope everybody's getting their Christmas shopping done. I hope you're doing it local and making sure that we're supporting our local businesses. And if you want to support our local businesses, you can also buy toys at any of the stores in town, but we'll actually be posted up in front of Costco at the December 9th at between 10 and 2. And that's the Costco on Fostoria. And we'll be there with the Marine Corps. They'll have some Marines down there again. And then we'd encourage you to download the Wildfire Preparedness Guide, opt into the Community Warning System, and download the FEMA All Hazards Guide. All right, it looks like that is all we have. I'm looking in the chat. I don't see anything else. So that means we're 10:10, which means we're off duty, but we're always 10:8 and in service to all of you. Thank you. Have a good night, Danville. Bye-bye.